Here are the top 10 worst things to ever happen to Stewie Griffin. We begin at number 10 with perhaps the most heart-crushing episode for Stewie. However, the episode doesn't exactly begin on a sad note. We see Brian and Stewie having an adventure, being chased by bad guys in a scene that looks like an old action movie.
Thanks to you, the Indians killed all the white people and took over America.
Apparently, Stewie and Brian traveled back into the past and altered something, but when it was time to go back and restore things to normalcy, they found out that the return pad was broken.
Don't give them any money. They're just gonna spend it all on deviled eggs.
Now, they are trapped, out of options. Stewie and Brian travel to their house, hoping that alternate Stewie has his own time machine. In this reality, everyone looks different, but alternate Brian looks a whole lot different.
Is anyone else in the mood to run really fast in one direction?
Real Brian and Stewie would love that, if it takes them back to the past, or is it the future? I'm getting confused.
I have no idea what's going on.
Luckily, alternate Stewie has a time machine with a return pad. They return to the past and undo the mess they created.
Hi, how are you today? Good to see you. Listen, we've just been informed that these guns are defective.
With everything now back to normal, Stewie destroys and disposes the time machine. At the junkyard, Brian spots a hockey net and convinces Stewie that they should take it back home. Stupidly enough, they decide to set the game in the middle of the road. And boom, a car runs into Brian.
Holy crap, what the hell happened?
That guy sucked.
Oh, okay, goddamn.
Desperate to bring Brian back, Stewie decides to rebuild the time machine, but his supplier informs him that titanium capacitors are no longer in the market.
What the heck?
With Brian gone, the family organizes a rather elaborate burial for the dog, where everyone, except Glenn, cries their eyes out.
Damn it, Ortiz, stop swinging at junk.
What an asshole!
With Brian dead, Lois suggests that they get a new dog, and everyone agrees to it. Everyone except Stewie. He is not over Brian yet. They get a new dog named Vinny,
Oh, finally, someone who sounds like they went to college.
who immediately becomes quite a popular figure.
How about I call you Hat Boy?
Lower your voice, Chris.
It's Hat Boy, bitch!
Stewie, however, hates the dog so much that he starts plotting how to get it killed.
I'm going to tell Vinny so much bad news about Italian Americans that he goes into cardiac arrest.
Classic criminal mastermind Stewie. Sadly, while everyone moved on from Brian rather quickly, Stewie's still sad.
Everyone in this family is so damn thrilled with you, they've forgotten all about Brian. I'll never forget Brian.
Eventually, Vinny wins Stewie over and they end up becoming best pals. We move on now from a time-traveling episode to an episode that begins with Stewie in space. So, Stewie is in space and he is so bored that he starts complaining about missing his wife. Wait a second, when did Stewie grow up and get married?
Strap yourself in. No matter what happens, it's been a privilege to serve under you.
Stewie appears to be doing quite well, until reality sets in. Stewie is still a baby and he is still as silly as ever.
Stewie, get lost. Daddy's trying to watch the ball game.
Peter tricks Stewie into going into the basement and Stewie falls for it way too easily. I used to think Stewie was smart. Down in the basement, Stewie discovers a script for a television show written by Brian and decides to bring it up the next day during breakfast.
I had an idea for a script once. It's basically Jaws, except when the guys in the boat are going after Jaws, they look around and there's an even bigger Jaws, so the guys have to team up with Jaws to get bigger Jaws.
Away from all the Jaws, Brian tries to get Lois to read his script, but from all indications, she isn't all that interested. Brian is, however, very persuasive, and Lois eventually reads the script, and surprisingly, she loves it so much that she even suggests that they put it on TV.
Wow, Brian, you must feel like Hitler did after he wrote Mein Kampf.
Oh, still in the mood of invading people's privacy, Chris sneaks in and steals Meg's diary. During the high-speed chase that follows afterwards, he knocks off Stewie, who falls down the stairs and cracks his head.
Is he breathing? It looks like it. That's a good sign, right?
Though it's initially an accident, what follows is far from an accident. It is a glaring display of the stupidity that runs in the family.
You are made of stupid.
Peter submits Brian's script to the TV station, and like Lois, they love it. Back to Chris, Meg, and the now unconscious Stewie. Instead of reporting what happened to Stewie so he could get treated, Chris and Meg decide to hide Stewie's condition, even though he is clearly unconscious and slowly losing his life. How dumb can they be? Well, it's a Griffin thing. Continuing in their obvious cluelessness, Meg and Chris tie their almost dead little brother to strings and drag him down for dinner like a puppet?
Look at my little cowboy.
Come on, Stewie, up in your high chair.
Boy, he must be starving.
Why?
Lois is clearly as clueless as the kids. Even with Stewie collapsing on his food, nobody seems to notice anything is off, like they always do. The studio messes with Brian's show by changing its direction. The dog is unhappy about it, but there's little he can do about it. After all, the man with the money calls the shots.
My God, this is a nightmare. I thought you said you weren't going to mess with my show.
It's a small change, Brian. You won't even notice it.
Well, we know the big studios never tell the truth. Chris and Meg continue to hide Stewie's condition until maggots emerge from his head.
Maybe we should take him to the hospital. I think the maggots have evolved to the point that they've developed space travel.
Genius idea, Meg. Why did no one think of that?
Well, duh.
Peter discovers the truth, but he, too, isn't all that smart. Stewie's condition continues to go from bad to worse, and somehow, Lois doesn't notice that there is something wrong with her baby. So much for being a mother. To celebrate Brian's new show, the family and their friends gather around to watch the premiere, but unfortunately, what they saw wasn't exactly what they were expecting. The studio had so messed with the show that it had become a disaster.
So, what'd you guys think? Not the worst thing in the world, right?
Time for bed, Stewie.
At this point, he might as well be dead. Following an honest conversation with Lois, Brian decides that he has had enough. He is so disappointed by the direction of his TV show and quits.
I've had enough. I'm not selling out anymore. I quit.
So Peter finally has some sense and starts to think that something could really be wrong with Stewie. But instead of taking him to the hospital, he does something irresponsible.
Call the police.
Stewie! Oh, God, what have I done?
Looks like you ran over him, Lois.
What an asshole!
If you thought Chris was silly, wait until you hear Lois's suggestion.
Peter, we have to cover this up. What? Find a way to pin this on someone else.
What the fuck?
Oh dear. Could the Griffins get any more dumb? To the next one. We catch up with Stewie checking his bets. Wait a second. Stewie is still a baby and it's illegal for babies to gamble. Well, maybe not in Family Guy. Stewie and Brian then go ahead to place what was supposed to be a friendly wager.
You've got Carol Channing, the actress, beating Mike Tyson, the boxer. Hell, give me $50 on Tyson.
Who bets on an actress to defeat Mike Tyson in a boxing match?
Absolutely nobody!
Surprisingly, Stewie wins on the bet as Channing defeats Tyson.
You know, Mike Tyson once beat up his wife.
If only Carol was his wife. Let's not dwell on this absurdity for too long. Lois returns home with a piece of mail informing Peter that his 25th high school reunion is scheduled for the weekend, but Peter is reluctant to attend. At the Drunken Clam, Peter informs his friends that he won't be attending the reunion because it would make him feel like a failure. But to encourage Peter, Joe informs Peter that everyone lies about how well they are doing at such reunions.
Wait a second, Joe. That's a great idea. Boy, imagine what it would be like to be a big shot.
To impress his old classmates, Peter shows up at the reunion dressed in a spacesuit while claiming to be a secret agent, astronaut, millionaire. Peter should have gone for something more believable. The whole thing sounds ridiculous. On winning the bet, we see a side of Stewie we didn't know existed. Stewie asks Brian for his money, but the dog is hesitant to pay, so Stewie gives him a deadline.
Huh? Yeah, 24 hours. Why? What happens in 24 hours?
24 hours later, Stewie goes to ask for his money, but Brian pleads for an extension. But Stewie is having none of it. He immediately attacks Brian with a mug and beats him mercilessly.
Yeah, it feels so good, does it? That's what happens, man.
Didn't know Stewie could be this mean. Such brutality. Coincidentally, Tom Brady attends the reunion where, as expected, Peter gets found out. So much for being an astronaut millionaire. After watching an embarrassed Peter run to the bathroom to throw up, Tom decides that Peter would make a great football player.
Peter, that was amazing. I've never seen a guy your size who could move like that.
Great scouting. Thanks to Tom, Peter gets signed to the New England Patriots.
And I want to thank the devil, too, because that's why God's there. You know, if it weren't for the devil, God would probably go insane, blow his brains out from boredom.
Great speech, Peter. Stewie, however, continues to haunt and terrorize Brian every opportunity he gets.
What the hell happened to you?
I fell down the stairs. Well, you should be more careful.
With Brian refusing to pay up his debt, Stewie attacks him a second time, beats him with a golf stick, breaks his leg, and even shoots him with a flamethrower.
You one crazy ass bitch!
Isn't that animal cruelty, or Stewie can just do whatever he wants? Just when we were starting to feel bad for Brian, we discovered that he had the money all along, but he was was intentionally refusing to pay up his debt.
All right, let's go to the bank.
Such a selfish dog. Peter's time at the New England Patriots starts on a good note. Now a superstar, he even features in a TV commercial. But Peter's superstardom is short-lived because Peter is more interested in showboating and lets his newfound fame get to his head. One time, running late to a game, Peter drives straight to the field in his latest ride.
What do you think, eh? I got this for doing that car dealership ad. All right, enough messing around, huh? Let's play this game.
Tired of his unnecessary showboating, the coach sells off Peter's contract to the most useless team in Europe, the London Silly Nannies.
Griffin, you're fired.
Having gotten his money, Stewie suggests that they let bygones be bygones. Wonder why he didn't do that with the money.
Give me your fucking money!
But Brian isn't interested, so to even the score, Stewie makes the mistake of offering Brian one free shot at revenge.
Ah, this is gonna be fun.
You can tell that Brian is absolutely going to mess with him.
I'm gonna enjoy it. Very, very much.
The Silly Nannies turn out to be an embarrassing team, but Peter isn't ready to give up too easily. In order to save his pride, he challenges the Patriots to a game with the Nannies, and thanks to Tom, they agree to it. Even after being injected with steroids by Peter to toughen them up, the Silly Nannies prove to be a fearful bunch.
Those men are tremendous in stature. And they're coming straight at us. We'll take my carriage.
Smell like Betsy here. All y'all smell like this to me.
Maybe they should stick to babysitting. But at least Peter's performance earns him Tom Brady's respect. Meanwhile, Stewie was slowly losing his mind. The unpredictability of when Brian was going to attack was killing Stewie.
When's the beating gonna come, Brian? Just tell me when it's gonna come. Just do something, anything.
Call an ambulance. But not for me.
He couldn't handle the suspense and was constantly paranoid.
Look how hurt I am. We're even now.
Who knew Brian was this good at mind games?
Karma's a bitch.
And just when Stewie thinks the torment is over, Brian nonchalantly shoves him in front of a moving bus for good measure.
No, that's a lot of damage.
It's winter and the entire family, or should I say the entire town, is having a blast. Everyone pairs up and once again, Stewie is with Brian, his partner in crime and sometimes his enemy. For most parts of the episode, Peter is so concerned about proving to himself that he is better than his son at everything, while Chris sees it as spending time with his dad. For Peter, everything is a competition.
Got your nose. Oh, yeah? Well, I got your face.
Meanwhile, Meg becomes a flag girl and she is so excited about it that she announces it to the family over dinner, while Peter and Chris are having what I'll describe as a who's more daft contest.
All right, salt shaker up the nose.
I got pepper.
Yes, I win.
That was fun, Dad.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
Back to Meg becoming a flag girl. Meg doesn't realize that being a flag girl isn't the same as being a cheerleader, and that the cheerleaders are the cool ones in their school, not the flag girls. Because of Meg, the whole family is forced to see the game. Stewie, however, spends most of the time trying to get Brian to notice him, like a teenage boy trying to impress his new crush.
Shut up.
The dog just told me to shut up. I demand to know what you plan to do about this.
After a basketball game in which he cheated since he just wanted to win at all costs, Peter and Chris go to the shower together, and Peter sees how large Chris's junk is.
Hey, Chris, what's with your leg? Oh, my God, that's not your leg.
I dropped my monster condom that I used for my Magnum Dong.
That one incident scares the shit out of Peter, who realizes that he isn't better at Chris at everything.
Thanks to you, our son has a huge wang.
Thanks to me.
Well, he didn't get it from me.
He is just such a sore loser, he starts sulking and even blames Lois for his loss. Since the scary encounter with Chris's wang in the bathroom, Peter has been feeling really insecure about himself.
Chris, drink your milk. It'll make you big and strong.
No more milk for him, Lois. He's had enough.
So, while at the grocery store, to impress a few random ladies and to boost his ego, he grabs Stewie and shoves him into his pants to look big.
Oh my God. Where's Stewie?
He's around.
Let me out of this stink-filled corduroy dungeon.
It's okay. He's outside the underwear.
I really feel for Stewie. The filth he had to experience against his consent? Well, at least Peter is small.
You have a small penis, don't you?
You smug little bastard.
But somehow, Stewie becomes really comfortable in Peter's secret chamber.
Hey, Stewie, you can come out now.
Turn off the light. I'm reading a ghost story.
Typical Griffins and being idiots. Not to worry though, Stewie made it out alive. So this time around, Peter's off to play golf with the guys and he carries Stewie along because Lois asked him to watch over the baby.
Oh, you're a worse parent than Britney Spears.
Peter himself needs babysitting, so Stewie isn't exactly in the safest of hands. At the end of his golfing adventure, Peter returns home with Stewie looking exhausted and sunburned. Lois, on noticing this, complains about how irresponsible Peter is to take a baby under the sun with no sunscreen. She should know Peter isn't the type you can trust with a task, but Stewie isn't exactly bothered because he loves his new look. In fact, he loves it so much that he starts spending most of his time under the sun trying to improve his tan.
Stewie, what are you doing?
Just getting my bronze on, baby. Hey, what do you think of my recumbent tan pose?
Now obsessed with the summer vibe and tanning, Stewie goes from drawing a pencil mustache to throwing an all-white party in the backyard.
It doesn't matter, Brian. I'm tan. Hey, Brian, look at my tan walk.
To maintain and improve his tan, Stewie gets a tan bed, but just before going in, he mocks Brian for being too white and tells him to wake him up in 15 minutes.
So you wouldn't know that because you're white as a ghost.
That's racist.
Unfortunately for Stewie, Brian falls asleep, only to wake up 6 hours later to find Stewie completely cooked.
Get the lotion. Put the lotion on me.
I'm tempted to say that serves him right. After the horrifying tan bed incident, Stewie abandons his tanning obsession, only to find a mole on his skin. Petrified that it could be cancer, he visits the hospital.
A few days? I could be dead by then.
Well, Stewie, that's not exactly how it works.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Convinced that he has only a week to live, Stewie makes a list of all the things he would love to do before he dies and asks Brian to help him out with them.
Oh, squiggly line in my eye fluid. I see you there, lurking on the periphery of my vision.
Fortunately for Stewie, the doctor calls to inform him that he doesn't have cancer.
You don't have cancer. You're gonna be fine.
Really? Oh, thank God! Oh, thank God! Let's see what you've got so far. You are just the worst type of person.
Peter's devout Catholic father Francis, who doesn't seem to approve of Lois, visits the family and unsurprisingly, he requests that Lois doesn't join in at the table for the family dinner.
Peter, I cooked the damn dinner.
That's a goddamn shame.
Who doesn't know that? Francis just doesn't care.
I don't give a shit.
So Lois is forced to sit with Stewie at the kids' table.
I'm just saying, 70s boobs were different. I don't know.
He's right, you know.
Not exactly the kind of conversation a mother and her toddler should be having. During dinner, Francis demands to know when Stewie was going to be baptized.
You really think that splashing magic water on Stewie will keep him out of hell?
What's that kind of talk or you'll get your heathen head smacked?
As expected, Lois isn't happy about Francis trying to force his religious views on the family, so she talks to Peter into confronting his dad about it, as if Peter is capable of confronting his father. Well, instead of Peter standing his ground like a man, he makes matters worse.
If we get Stewie baptized, you and all other old people have to acknowledge and be aware that there's crap in the corners of your mouth.
Good negotiating, Peter. Now Francis is gonna stop forcing his Christian views on you.
Right? Wrong.
At the church, the priest informs them that the baptism isn't going to hold because the available holy water is tainted. But Francis is so stubborn that he decides to baptize Stewie all by himself, and the tainted holy water makes Stewie sick.
Don't take me to a black doctor.
Oh no. The doctor confirms that Stewie's sickness is due to his exposure to tainted holy water. Still trying to force her husband to man up to his father, Lois advises him to choose his own religion.
Of course. You're a grown man. You can pick any religion you want.
Trust Peter to take his absurdity to the max.
Lois, I took your advice and picked a new religion. I'm gonna be a Mormon, nailing a different wife every night.
Peter should have just asked her for permission to sleep around. Due to his ailment, Stewie has to be quarantined in a plastic bubble.
Now remember, kids, don't touch Stewie. He's not allowed to have any human contact.
Stewie is always tormenting Brian, so now that he is sick, it's his turn to oppress him as much as he can.
Brian, will you carry me upstairs? I want to look at my toys.
We all know Stewie would do the same or probably even worse.
Having your way.
Stewie spends the entire episode quarantined. Lois even has the genius idea to change his bubble for a better one. Now Brian has enough opportunity to make Stewie's life miserable.
Oh, you think you're so funny. Well, as soon as I figure out where I am, you're dead, Brian!
And speaking of Brian intentionally hurting Stewie, this time he actually gets him killed.
I beg your pardon?
Brian convinces the family to attend Quahog Gay Pride, where Brian wins a ticket to see Celine Dion. Being the good friend that he is, Brian asks Stewie to accompany him on his trip, and Stewie jumps right at it. But instead of using a plane, Stewie convinces Brian to try out his latest invention.
Why fly when we can get there instantly?
Turns out scientist Stewie is back, this time with a teleportation device he believes can take anyone, anywhere in the world in a heartbeat.
Oh, Stewie, that's incredible.
Wish it was that easy. One blinding flash later and... nothing.
Well, that was anticlimactic.
They're still standing right where they started. So looking thoroughly unimpressed, they head to the airport, completely clueless that the machine actually created a duplicate of Brian and Stewie, who are instantly teleported to Vegas, leaving the cloned Stewie and Brian with good luck and having the time of their lives, while the originals are left with bad luck, completely frustrated.
Hi, we're checking in, Griffin.
I do have a Griffin here, but that room was checked into hours ago.
To make things even worse, Stewie gambles away all of Brian's money.
I was on my way to get ice cream, and I passed a roulette table, and I put it all on 16.
Never knew roulette tables called people's names. It's so bad that Brian can't call for help because he secretly took money from Lois for the trip. They make it to the venue only to discover that the ticket has already been used by someone else. Unknown to them, alternate Stewie and Brian are already inside.
Oh, this trip has been a disaster.
Desperate for money, they accept a job to help a man sell his condo, only that Stewie has to disguise as a woman. Well, they end up doing a terrible job at it.
I'm not 100% sure what we're doing anymore.
Now, out of options, they borrow money from a loan shark and head back to the casino hoping to get lucky. But once again, they end up losing it all.
Oh crap, we're screwed!
While on the flip side, alternate versions of Stewie and Brian are literally swimming in money.
I'll give you $1,000, pay him to beat up Rita Rudner.
But in a stroke of fortune, or perhaps misfortune, they switch bags. Meanwhile, the other version of them gets mistaken for those who borrow the money.
You bastards think you could just borrow a bunch of money from a loan shark and then waste it on tacky suits?
This has to be a case of mistaken identity, or is it? I'm not really sure anymore. Sadly, since they are unable to pay the money they actually didn't borrow, Stewie gets shot.
You son of a bitch.
Ah, Stewie!
Thankfully, there's another Stewie around, so no harm done. Unaware that they are now rich, the original Stewie and Brian contemplate suicide.
Brian, we're dead no matter what. At least this way it'll be quick and clean.
Eventually, Stewie tricks Brian into dying alone.
I didn't really think we were gonna do it!
Brian should have learned not to trust Stewie by now. Turns out that we are left with Brian and Stewie while Brian and Stewie are also dead. Now this is becoming a little bit too confusing. Shortly after Brian's death, Stewie finds out that their backpack is actually loaded with cash.
Hide the money, y'all! There's poor people around!
While trying to purchase a ticket back home, Stewie and Brian stumble on each other. Original Stewie learns that his teleportation machine worked, but not exactly the way he wanted it to work.
Where's the other me?
Oh, what? Where is the Stewie you came with?
Wow, what a ride. Lois goes grocery shopping with Chris, Stewie, and Brian. A woman mistakes Stewie for a girl and he becomes upset.
Did she just think I was a girl?
Following the supermarket incident, Stewie begins doing the most to prove that he is a man and not a girl.
Only the most manly thing ever. 2 boy names. Doubly masculine.
More than just dressing up as a man, Stewie decides to play American football, ignoring Brian's original warnings that he was too little to play.
Yeah, football, boy stuff.
Brian tries to drag Stewie out of the field, but when Tyler's mom makes fun of Stewie, he immediately has a change of mind.
You know what, Stewie? Get the hell out on that field. And if you see that Tyler, take his knee out.
This is big brain time.
At first, the coach wouldn't play Stewie because he is too little, but Brian insists that he throws him into the game. Now, it's all for Brian's ego. He just wants to prove a point.
Come on, Stewie, give your dog something to post on Facebook.
As you must have already predicted, it didn't end well for Stewie.
And nobody's blocking.
Back off! He may have a concussion!
Stewie wakes up from his unintentional nap feeling confused. He starts to think that the phone is constantly ringing when it's not. We all know it's ringing. It's his brain. So while Brian is being all analytical about the whole situation, Chris whacks Stewie on the head and puts him back to sleep.
Chris, are you crazy? Shh, let's just let him sleep this off.
Look how peaceful he is.
To jail!
Chris's absurd solution doesn't do the trick as Stewie ends up in the hospital where Brian apologizes to him. Stewie, on the other hand, has already accepted the fact that he wasn't ever going to be a man. But when the coach shows up at the hospital and calls him a tough guy, Stewie starts to think that maybe he could be a man after all.
How about that? Real man.
Yes, yes.
As Peter heads out for work, he clumsily backs his car out of the driveway and runs right into Brian. The accident sends Brian to the hospital for surgery. Weirdly, Stewie is worried about Brian, but for the wrong reasons.
If he dies, I'm gonna have to start hanging out with The Rock again.
Well, goddamn, bitch.
On recovery, a now paranoid Brian takes to drinking at the local pub where he meets Frank Sinatra, who ends up lifting his broken spirit. Soon enough, Brian joins Sinatra's band and starts performing. Meanwhile, he was supposed to babysit Stewie, but in his depressed state, he doesn't even know when Stewie joined the band on stage.
What could possibly go wrong?
After a night filled with alcohol and music, Brian returns home clueless to where Stewie is.
Brian, there you are. Stewie was supposed to be in bed 2 hours ago.
Now, you wonder why a dog would be chosen to watch over a baby.
I have no fucking idea.
Let alone a depressed dog just recovering from an accident. Excellent parenting, Lois. Stewie returns home injured and missing an ear. Still, no one seems to even notice his condition.
Yeah, what if something had happened to Stewie?
I personally don't think Stewie is even loved by the Griffins.
Yeah, don't worry, I don't need to go to the hospital or anything. I'll just use this Mr. Potato Head piece.
The next night, Brian doesn't show up at the club and Stewie goes looking for him, only to find him drunk and passed out on the streets, after which Stewie talks some sense into the dog. Now to something even more strange. While trying on a new shirt, a salesman notices a strange lump on Peter's neck, prompting Lois to drag him to Dr. Hartman. The doctor reveals it's actually a vestigial twin that never fully developed. He extracts it from just beneath Peter's skin so that it can talk. What? And interact with everyone around. Peter, of course, decides to name his little twin Chip. When Peter brings Chip home, the kids are totally freaked out at first, but Chip's charm wins them over in no time. Pretty soon, he's everyone's favorite. But when Chip starts getting adventurous and wants to live life to the fullest, Peter tries to snuff him out, until Lois steps in and accuses him of smothering his newfound twin. Peter goes back to Dr. Hartman and requests to have Chip removed, despite possible risks to his own life. The operation is a success and they become separate individuals. Peter encourages Chip to go his own way as he is now a free man.
You know, Chip, now that you're a free man, this is a chance for you to go out and make a real life for yourself someplace.
But the family insists Chip stay with them. The family likes Chip better than Peter, so Peter becomes jealous and decides he doesn't like him anymore. Peter needs to work on his self-esteem. Peter decides to get rid of him by having a dog named Bingo to eat him up.
That escalated quickly.
But Chip outsmarts Peter, who ends up being bitten by Bingo before the dog moves over to a more exquisite meal, Stewie.
Ah, Brian! Browser history! Clear it!
The dingo ate your baby.
Poor Stewie gets munched and dragged out of the house by the dingo, and Peter? He doesn't even bat an eye. The whole thing just gets completely ignored.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Well, let's act as if we weren't wondering what could be in his browser history. And that's it. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more.